Welcome to Legacy Conversations, a channel where we preserve military memories and history.
Hello everyone, it's Chris here. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for watching here and listening to this video. I'm grateful for you. Please forgive me if I repeat myself because I don't know which video you've seen. I'm also a bit sweaty despite the aircon running here in the studio, simply because I had to run up to the fourth floor to look at the roof because the monsoon is starting. And monsoon rain, man, that's something else. So we're making sure there's no leaks. It's a brand new roof, but we need to be sure that there's no just rain up and just make sure that everything's okay. So there are several different ways how you can support the Legacy channel. The first one is just join the Patreons. It's $5 a month or whatever you think you want to contribute. And then the other way of doing it is read the GMJ books, the George M. James books, or my own books, or the books which Rebecca and myself actually wrote. You will get a very good return of investment because the guys at the Patreon are actually getting all the nice videos way before you see it. As we sit here today, and it's now 20th of April, 2025, there are some videos which will not be out until November, which is 7 months from now. Simply because we have too many videos. There's too many videos being made. But guys, we can't stop that. There's no way in the world we can tell a guy, look, we don't want to hear your story. We've got too many videos. But simply because we need to bring our story and our history out so that our children and those following us and those who are interested can actually get to the truth. Because it's probably not in the books. You know, Victor writes the book. We know that, and the history, and if I look at what children are being taught at school, and if I see the ignorance, the absolute ignorance out there in the West, especially on South Africa and the South African Defence Force, which is a fantastically well defence force, best in the Southern Hemisphere by far, probably in its own field the best in the world at that stage. And my own unit, you know, South African Police Force, not the service, which stands for SLAG. Not really. I'm just joking when I say that. I'm sure there's good people there as well. You know, you need to speak to the monitor to understand what actually happened there. And we're very privileged that we're speaking to people from generals to the lowest troop. And I want to invite all of you guys, please come and talk to me. Don't think we're only interested in special forces or the senior officers or anything like that. Even if you know, because of circumstances never ended up in Angola, but were based in South Africa, so what, man? Come and tell your story, please. We cannot get the history done unless we know the full story. Now, with the GMJ books, the George M. James books, is fairly unique because there's so many of them. There's about 54 of them. And it is fantastic books. If you are interested in legacy, if you're interested in military history, that type of thing, espionage, weapon systems, modern ones, not old. You're going to find the books extremely interesting. There's going to be things inside it which you probably don't know about. Or if you knew about it, you'll find out a new angle. They are suppressed. This is one of the books, codenamed Bella Dawn, which we will talk a little about suppression of books. Because if you think that the books are free, I mean, there's freedom of speech out there, especially in the West. Nah, definitely not. I will testify from this book what happened to this book. So Bella Dawn is a book where we deal with money and particularly gold. Can gold be used as a weapon of war? Because, you know, South Africa always had a lot of gold, still has. And together with Russia, actually, the BRICS countries now control most of the gold in the world. And it's also so that a place like Russia and China, India also a little bit, has been investing in gold very, very heavily for the last 10 years or so. They don't have fiat currencies like the US. The US dollar is based upon nothing. It's based upon, well, here's some money and I will pay you. And that's it. And if they decide one day not to pay you, then, oh, what are you going to do? It's not backed by gold anymore. So you have to trust the politicians that they will actually do what they say they will, which is, of course, insanity. I mean, they never do what they say they will. In fact, if they have two options, they will always take the worst one. We do discuss this in other books as well, because most of them are actually under Jesuit influence. And most of them bow down to Rome. I mean, all roads actually leads to Rome. Don't believe me? Read Oath of Evil, The War on Protestantism. It's almost 700 pages of facts. And you will understand the fascism which is coming into the world right now. In fact, you will discover a lot of things in the JMJ books which you didn't know. Hopefully you did know about it. Don't want to take you lightly. But we also always look at history in the books. And one of the things we looked at in this book is Czechoslovakia, when Hitler, of course, seized it. They call it the rape of Czechoslovakia. And it was ready to fight, you know. And the Soviet Union at that stage was ready to assist. But sadly, the Soviet Union was then waiting for France and the West to also say they will also come and fight and stop Hitler before the war started. And the West, they ran away. They had no manhood. They wouldn't fight. And so the Soviet Union said, well, in that case, I will let it go as well. It's one of the direct things why they then entered into an agreement with Nazi Germany, which, of course, Nazi Germany then broke. And then invaded them in 1941, wasn't it? Oops, Barbarossa. The lesson to be learned out of that is not so much about the skullduggery of a politician. You expect that from a swine. And Third Brigade, as I call them in the books, because they float in what they speak. But I've had the honor of working with quite a few of them, especially in South Africa as an attorney. I knew all of them. And let me say, except for Mr. Mandela, not one of them impressed me at all. Now, I know there's a lot of you who will tell me Mandela was a terrorist, blah, blah, blah. Yes, from a certain angle, yes, you're quite correct. He was found guilty of terrorism and he was damn lucky not to be executed. In fact, in many other countries, he would have been executed. But you also have to look at the cause. And you also have to look at what is a terrorist and what's not a terrorist. And that all depends on viewpoint. It depends on where you come from. You know, there's some people in the world, I laugh at them, I think they're ridiculous, who say the Cuban army in Angola was the most honored or honor army or something like that. They use these strange English words. Because they were fighting apartheid, helping the Angolans against the colonialists. Okay, that's their view. We have to respect their views. There's many different views in the world. Sadly, we live in a world with such views. They say there's the most moral army in the world. Well, what I've seen of the Cubans is they ran away as quickly as they could. They were actually not a factor ever. But they're good aircraft, and there will be an episode coming on a book which one of them wrote, the Mick Diaries. We're going to talk to them. And the Cubans also are welcome here to come and speak to us so that we can get the full picture. But it all depends on viewpoint. Now, it's fascinating that with Czechoslovakia, they didn't actually have the gold reserves. The bullion was not in the country, so Hitler couldn't grab it physically. This gold bullion was actually in London, where it's been kept. Now, the city of London is not part of the UK. Did you know that? You really should read Oath of Evil and other of my books, and you'll find out what the city of London is. It's like a country. It's like, you can basically say it's like a Vatican, on whose influence it is, of course. I believe Washington, D.C. too. It's not really part of America. It's like a separate little princedom or something. People don't mention that. But I'm speaking on a correction with Washington, D.C. I wrote all these books, but I can't remember all of them. There's 54 of them. And anyway, it's one of them you read or get hold of in audio or art or soft cover or Amazon. Is money which comes to legacy. It helps us to make these videos for you and to maintain our history. We're not like a Voortrekker monument, which is actually not a monument. It's a temple. It's a temple. Comes out in my books as well. If you look at Gerard Moerdijk, the architect who designed it, you will find out he was actually totally under the influence of Egyptian architecture. And therefore, he built it in that style. It's a temple to honor the sun god. And if you are very upset with my words now, please note I'm not saying that you are, when you go there and you pray to God, that you are praying to the sun god. I'm not saying that I'm saying the building is according to its own architect. It's not a monument, it's a temple of a sun god. It's just the way it is. I was under the influence of that. I can prove this. Don't get angry with me. I had to ban quite a few people who got upset. But the gold of Czechoslovakia was actually in London. Now, lots of countries, even West Germany, they kept their gold there. In the 1990s, when I asked to see the gold is still there, the Brits told them to, I was pissed off to tell them to take a hike. And so they don't know. As today, we don't know if the so-called US gold is actually there where it should be in the vaults at Fort Knox. We don't know because there's never been audits done in 50 years. We don't know. And you'll remember that Elon Musk at some stage were like not even aware of it. And then he was like, oh, we have to need to go and look at that. And then he just died a small death. No one talks about it anymore. Why not? Why not? There's reasons why not. Probably because it's not there anymore. We don't know. And until we see it and test it, we won't know. It's that simple. And the way these people act is these governors of these gold bullions should start an investigation immediately. An honest man has nothing to hide. You know that. But anyway, with Czechoslovakia, the Brits actually returned the gold. The Germans and Nazis actually demanded the gold since they were now in control of the protectorate of Czechoslovakia, whatever they called it then. And they paid them. They paid them what they gave him the gold. After the war, it was said that the governor at that stage, it's in the book, was actually a secret Nazi and he wanted to help them. He himself denied that. He said, look, by law, I had no other choice. I had to do it. And so he did it. The other thing which we look at in the book is France. You will remember that France fell in 1940 and they had to surrender and make peace. It was split into two halves, Vichy France. And you will also remember this idiot, Winston Churchill, the 33-degree Freemason, the Druidic priest. The fellow who got lucky, who should have been executed as a war criminal, but wasn't. He actually said interesting things about the fall of France because he said that you shouldn't judge if you weren't there. But you also know he said that Britain stood alone, England stood alone, which is the biggest bullshit I've ever heard of my life. Never stood alone. What about the Commonwealth countries? But, whatever, we do discuss that in our books as well. If you look at Codename Caribbean, I speak about 20 minutes about the utter lack of deaths of the British Army in World War II, where they lost about, 316,000 men and women, and everyone is regretful. Everyone. But in the bigger picture, France, in those 6 weeks, And a few months before the 6 weeks of the Blitzkrieg took place, lost 340,000 men. So they lost more men, 14,000 men more than the Brits actually lost during the entire 6 years of the war. So tell me, how do you say to me that the French army is a bunch of cowards who, the white flags? How do you come to that? The French army was fighting. They were fighting all the way. I think Belgium gave up in something like 2 days, not even a week. And so did, I think, the Netherlands. It's pathetic. Nothing was standing in front of that armor in the Blitzkrieg in those days. The Brits ran through Dunkirk and other ports all the way home. Let me not repeat myself. But the fact of the matter is, even Churchill said that you shouldn't judge the French. And even Churchill is a man who was known. Go and read. Go and research a bit. We said in the Parliament many times, thank God for the French army. And yet people don't know these things. But the French also had a lot of gold, and it was actually placed on the island in the Caribbean called Saint Martinique. And there it was. And so what the Royal Navy did is they just put a few warships around it, and then de facto controlled that gold. And so that gold was then used as barter, very much the same as what they're trying to do now with the frozen Russian bullion, the $400 million, which is in Europe. Now they're taking the interest. You're stealing. You're a damn thief. That's all you are. It is against every single law in existence to use that money and to give it to Ukraine. It is just not allowed, and at some stage the Western nations are going to return that money with interest to Russia. Just going to happen. It is amazing. It's amazing the games these guys play, and then everybody think it's a new thing. It's not a new thing. If you know history, you would know that actually it's an old thing. Even South Africa, at one stage, an American cruiser, heavy cruiser, arrived in Cape Town and took all South Africa's gold because this idiot of a Churchill just basically gave the gold away to America to buy arms. India had to pay something like $1 million a day in the 1940s during the war. They had to pay that for the war effort. They almost broke India. And of course, they gave more than 1 million men. But, England stood alone. Oh, shame. Oh, shame. It is just fascinating to me, guys, that, we speak as colonialists, I suppose, from the colonials, where we come from. So we have different views. And if you're an Englishman and you're sitting there, you're getting very angry with me, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But just remember, these are facts. And these are the views from our side, whether you like it or not, I don't care. So the book is filled with such type of examples where we talk about it. And the book itself is also about assassinating people using explosives. And what I did is I looked at what Mossad did. Now, the one country in the world to assassinate people the most, and I think we're standing at about 4,000 people who's been assassinated by now, is Israel through the agency Mossad. And sometimes they use the special forces, and they're very good at this. And in coming episodes, when we talk about the G5 gun, we're going to talk about Dr. Gerald something, I can't remember his name now. And he was actually assassinated in France because he was involved with helping Saddam Hussein to build a gun which can shoot into the space, and then the shell would drift and it would land, be able to hit Israel. So they just killed him. It's just amazing. There was another incident and affair, which I think is mentioned in this book, where they actually took snipers. They landed them from the ocean side. They went out, they shot the guy dead in front of his family, and they just moved back to the submarine and moved out. And the West applauded. Fantastic. Can do no wrong. But, legally speaking, that is murder, right? It's murder. You're not supposed to do such things. But I don't want to get into the argument about that because from their viewpoint, it's not murder. It really depends on where you sit and where you stand. But that is the outstanding trademark of the Jewish nation is they commit all these murders, assassinations, and they get away with it. No other country in the world can do that. It's amazing how they do it. And some of you might say to me, they were chosen tribe. Well, they're not. According to the Bible, when they stoned Stephen, that ended. It's a prophecy. And then the gospel went over from the Jews to the Gentiles. And from there on, you got the Christians, and then they split into two with the Protestants. On the one side, on the one hand, with Martin Luther and those people, but there were people before them. Go and read Oath of Evil to warn Protestantism, and don't come out and say I'm anti-Semitic. I will definitely take you on in court because there's nothing anti-Semitic to me. Just think about Rebecca's name and read the books. You will find many combined operations. And also look at my own history. My own grandmother who escaped from Nazi Germany because he was Jewish and came to the Union of South Africa where she met my grandfather. And all the family there died in the camps. So don't come with that crap to me. I will sue you. But then something very strange happened to the book. Because I wrote something in chapter 1. In every book, you have like a little heading. So you will have, say, chapter 1, wherever the book plays off. And you can actually go there. If a book says to you, there's a mountain looks like that, and it's in this area, you will find the mountain there. In another book, codename Ndebele 14, we look at the rescue of hostages, or let's say shot down air crew or whatever, inside the city which is being held by the enemy. Something like Mosul in Iraq, where ISIS take the city over. Now people are trapped, and you have to go in and get these people out. There's no way in the world you're going to do that with an armored attack or whatever. You need your spies, and you need to work on the cover, and it can be done, and there's sometimes bribes involved. But that book played off in East London, and East London was being declared for the exercise to be like an enemy-held city. And if you stand at certain points in East London, and you have to read the book, and you actually do know the East London well, as I do, then this is now East London in South Africa, not in the island without sun, you know. So you will actually see where the book plays off. You will see here they come in. This is what happens here. This is what happened there. This is where they landed. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. All the books are like that. So if you ever read a book like that and you say the book plays off in Mozambique or wherever, then you can go where you'll find what you read. But in this book, and in all of them, underneath that, I would put a little quote. It might be anything. It might be like my late wife would have said something, heroes wear dog tags, not caps. I would put that in and just put a little, it's just the way I write. So in this particular book on chapter 1, you can always say page 1. I put in a quote as follows, and forgive me, I'm going to read it, and I'm not good at reading things. But Barack Obama said, we have contained them. Barack Obama to ABC News in an interview talking about ISIS. This was in 2015. I don't think they're gaining strength. It's also where he said they are a junior league or something. I don't quite understand American terminology, but what he basically said is ISIS is nothing, not a problem. And then the very next day, and this I wrote in just underneath it, I said the very next day, November the 13th, 2015, ISIS hit Paris with simultaneous bombing and shooting attacks. 150 civilians died, as did 7 terrorists. France is still under a state of emergency because of it. And then France counterattacked. Of course, that made Barack Obama's statement look like an utter idiot. He's also the guy who said that America is not a Christian nation anymore. Well, he's got that right. They are the second beast in the Bible. So they will talk like a lamb, they will look Christian, but they're not. But in fact, what Obama was speaking there, I think he was in Egypt, was saying that it's not a Christian nation, it's almost a Muslim nation. That's not true, by the way. The Muslims are very, very tiny little of a population, they percentage, they're almost nothing. What is fascinating there is that I think there's more Catholics now there than Protestants. So you also see it in the current presidents and the last three presidents. You start seeing that suddenly you have Catholics as vice presidents, or they're running as vice president. Of course, Kennedy was Catholic, but Kennedy came out and he said the fact that he's Catholic doesn't mean a thing. It shouldn't make any difference. He was damn right, and he was killed. If you read Oath of Evil and other books, you will find where we actually discuss John F. Kennedy. I don't think much of a man, but he did good things as well. And he did want to break the CIA up after the Bay of Pigs fiasco, and they were most definitely involved somehow. The latest book I'm writing, it should be done by the time you listen here, but it wouldn't be published yet. Code name Snake 606. I think it's book 54 or 55. Yeah, we go into that because new evidence has come out under the Trump administration. So it didn't go well in this book, the statement about Obama, and of course it's not on purpose. I mean, I don't think much of a man, but I don't think much of any politician, to be honest. And once again, guys, it's the truth. He made that statement, and the next day, the very next day, ISIS attacked. And of course, we know further on, the US actually been supported ISIS all the way, so much so that they now control Syria. And fascinating is that ISIS is basically a Sunni terrorist organization, while Iran is Shia, and Iran was actually attacking ISIS. They were fighting against ISIS. So who would have thought perhaps the Americans and Iranians should have taken a hands common enemy, you know? No. Why not? Why not? I tried to answer that questions in several books. It puzzled me greatly, but you have to read Oath of Evil to understand a bit more. The fact of the matter is, when I checked the manuscript after it was published, this thing about Obama was removed. Just like that. Amazon just took it out. And I asked Amazon, now, who the hell are you to do that? What right do you have to change the manuscript? They have all the right in the world to refuse to publish it. I mean, of course. But you have no damn right in the world to go and change a manuscript. You just can't do it. You think I got an answer from them? The answer is no. You think I got an apology? No. Do you think I ran into red tape and a lot of non-answers? Absolutely. And so what I'm saying to you is you cannot trust these people. When Oath of Evil came out, it's in every book in the foreword. I actually took some money. I didn't have any money, but I took some money. This is before Legacy. I still don't have money because of Legacy. Legacy pays for nothing, actually. But it feels good to get some money at least. And so so I took some money I actually got from Rebecca, and I said, let's see if we can advertise this. I think it's important. There's a message there because the Protestantism cause, the Protestants are under attack by the Jesuit order. That's why they were created. Millions of people have died already, hundreds of millions probably. And he just explains everything from a biblical viewpoint. And the guy took the money, and within 10 minutes he came back and he says, I returned your money. I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I cannot publicize this book. I cannot do it. And so it went from one guy after the other. That's before the book even came out, which is why I say to you, if you can get hold of that book in paper, get it in paper. Because it's very hard for him to change the paper because I can see the manuscript. But it's very easy to change something electronically, if you understand. But once you have a book, it's written. It's in stone almost. Of course, it's updated all the time as new information comes out because it's an ongoing war. But I'll talk about that in great length. It's one of those books that actually caused a lot of friends to abandon me. A lot of people who started saying, I hate Catholics. I don't. Couldn't care less. I say it in the book many times, but people, will read what they read. So anyway, in this book is the story behind all of this is where they found a link between the far right wing in South Africa and the Muslims, the jihadis, which is a very tiny minority, both of them. Not only have they found them, they also see that they've found some of the Kruger millions. Seems every author write about that, but I don't really care what's going on in the South African author scene, so I didn't even know it. But anyway, they found the Kruger millions and melted it down. That's where the gold's thing come in. And they started using this newly gained wealth for them to get training and weapons because, it does cost money to train a terrorist. You also have to pay him, blah, blah, blah. And so at the end of the day, they are trapped. It's a book which is very fascinating because it also looked at the history of the RVB. And there might be programs coming out on Legacy about the true history of the RVB, which is basically a front organization for the South African intelligence services. That's what they're saying. I didn't say that in the book because I couldn't prove it, but there are guys who say to me that they might want to come and talk about that aspect. We'll see. I don't know. In the background is we speak about Martha Hari. Now, she's also known as Margaretha Zeller. It's of course Dutch, Netherlands. Now, she was this very famous spy of the First World War. And she was actually executed by France. She came from a broken home. Father lost his money, so she was sort of married off at the age of 18 to a much older man called McLeod, a Dutch officer. I think he was a captain. In those days, it's common. If you look at something like Field Marshal Montgomery, you'll also find that he actually only married late in life. It was just the way they had to reach a certain age and stage in their lives before they could afford a wife. In those days, of course, a wife didn't work, she stayed at home. And so the man had to produce. So different than today, isn't it? And that marriage didn't last. There were two children, but I think one died at the age of 2 and the other at 21. Anyway, they then went to, which is today Indonesia, which is very close to us, where we now. And she learned these erotic dances, I suppose. And she then went back to Netherlands, to the Netherlands. And she became something of a sensation there with this erotic dances of hers. Now, if you look at the picture, she was really to what you see today, even here in Phuket, if you go to Bangla Road, just up the street, then she was extremely tame, there was nothing really going on there. But at the end of the day, for that time, it was seen as very exotic. And so the First World War broke out and she became a spy. And some say she became a double spy. She started working for, some say the Germans, they definitely had as well as France. She was working for both. And of course, the two countries were enemies. Then she got caught in January 1917. She got caught because there was a German military attaché in Madrid, in Spain. I think Spain was neutral. He sent a code. He used a code, a cipher, which they knew was broken. And in it, he refers about a German spy called H21. And the French, of course, got hold of this message, which was deciphered. And they identified her as being H21. Now, she was arrested and she was then executed after a trial, which was really an unfair trial. Totally unfair. They executed her by firing squad. She was refused what do you call it, the thing over the eyes. blindfold. She stood watching them while they shot her dead. And also in the book, we go into quite a bit of detail on executions, how you do it and how you don't do it. And these things are legal, of course. It's not assassination, but that's something else. Assassinations, as you will learn in the book, is either done covertly or overtly. Overtly, you'll do it because you want to send a message. Your damn message never works. Although, I want to say that the 4,000 people murdered by Israel in this way, you're going to murder another 4,000 who still attack you. They just don't like you. It's just like that. There's no fear factor here, especially not when you're dealing with a man who thinks he's going to go to paradise and have 50 virgins or whatever he's getting there, but certainly these virgins are about 100 feet tall. So I don't know how he's going to enjoy himself there with them, but, that type of guy is not going to be afraid of death. So it's not a good way of doing it. It's not efficient. But anyway, so the legend of Mata Hari was born. So we go into this in great detail. We discuss the court case because lots of things came out. The big thing which came out is that after the war, the Germans actually admitted that she was age 21. She was the spy, which the French said she was. But in the trial, she was executed for the wrong reasons. They had like a secret trial in the trial where they revealed this broken code, which people didn't know about until many, many decades later. And so it wasn't a war crime in any way. It's not like Edith Cavell or something. I don't know how you say her name. There's Edith Cavell or something like that. She was a British nurse. She was captured while treating the men, and the Germans executed her. Now, that was a damn war crime, but Mata Hari was not. And so that's the story of Mata Hari. I just summarized it to you. It's actually many, many pages in the book where we talk about it. Because what's also fascinating to me is that she was never actually buried. Would you believe? Her body was embalmed or something and kept in a French medical institute, as well as her head, which was separated. And they kept this remains for decades and decades. And in the 90s, they discovered the head disappeared. Now, okay, in the year 2000, both the head and the body actually disappeared from a museum of anatomy. Why would you keep an executed female agent body separated from the head and the head and not bury her? I don't get this. I don't. It's puzzling for me. That is why I actually write about it. I don't know. I don't have answers. I don't know why it's idiocy. I mean, there's nothing about the body at that age. She was in her 40s, mom of 2 children. Definitely not, what you would expect a 20-year-old to look like. She would have had at least 12 or 11 bullets inside her, because they say during these execution squads that one of the rifles would actually shoot a blank, or a few of them, or whatever. They work this out, but it's all nonsense. I mean, if you're an experienced shooter, and you will be by the time you've done basics, guys, you will know if you're firing a real bullet or you're firing a blank. I mean, there's a difference in kicking the rifle, man. It's not the same at all. You know that, and I know that. So that is absolute nonsense. But the thing is that the body would have been rolled with bullets. She died instantly. There were no need for a coup de grace. Where the officer commanding the firing squad put a bullet in your head to take you out of your misery. I also speak about UP4E in the book. UP4E was also executed, but he deserved to be executed. Forgive me, guys, for saying that. He should have resigned his commission before he started what he did, even though I have deep sympathy. But the fact of the matter is, the English were not wrong to execute UP4E. But we speak about that in the book, and we also speak about the 2 Australian war criminals Harry Breaker Morant and Peter Hancock. They were two mates. They were executed in 27 February 1902 by the Brits for committing war crimes against the Boers. They murdered 9, some say 12. One of them was actually a German Lutheran pastor, Reverend Daniel Jesse. He's, I suppose, in English, Jesse, in Afrikaans or German. And of course, the Australians then turned these two war criminals into folklore, and they became these heroes for them. And you know what? They were war criminals. End of story. They deserve to be executed. And that is why their graves in South Africa sometimes are vandalized, which should not happen. But I don't feel sorry for Breaker Morant at all. In fact, I would urinate on his grave if I think I can get away with it. There's nothing heroic about these two. The crimes they committed is just horrible. There's no excuse. Stop making excuses. And yeah. But I also have to say that even though this Reverend Pastor Jesse was murdered by them, I think Morant was actually found innocent of that particular murder. We have to say that. Fact of the matter is, guys, if you commit a war crime in wartime, don't be surprised if you're executed, even by your own people. There are rules of war. Of course, the Brits didn't follow it. Must I explain the concentration camps once again to you? You know, there's people who said to me, they're serious when they say this, that the camps were actually voluntarily. In other words, people went there by themselves and they were not enclosed. They could have left if they wanted to. Man, you don't know history. You really don't know history. Don't talk to me. I will just get upset with you. It's nonsense. You committed those war crimes. 1 out of 3 women and children died. You have not apologized. You don't care about it. We care about it. We should care about it. End of story. As much as the German Jews or the other Jews and the people executed in the concentration camps, it just wasn't just Jews, by the way. In fact, if you read the When and Where books, I think it is When Does It End? You will find out actually that this tattoo which I had, you know, everybody knows that the Jews, some of it, wasn't in all camps, but some of them had like a tattoo number here on your arm. That was tested on Soviet Union army prisoners, right? And the first tattoos were made of nails. I have pictures of it on their chest. That's where they did it. That's where they made the first tattoos in a camp. They tested it on about 400 of them, and then they executed them. War is a horrible thing, especially when people think they can get away with everything, you know, and especially when they start picking upon people who is in a minority. Anyway, guys, that is Codename Bella Dawn. I really hope you enjoy the book. As I said, it's available on Amazon. It's not in South Africa yet, simply because it cost me money to do it there. And unless the books pay for themselves, I'm not doing it. But it's available on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, as well as audio, as well as Kindle. As I say in many of the videos, not in Apple, because I think Apple supports terrorism. San Bernardino, like 2015. I refuse to explain it again. In fact, now I'm talking here, it might not be available on hardcover, just only softcover. Doesn't matter. It's a fairly substantial book, almost 500 pages. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you for listening up to here, and God bless you.